First, we're going to call this the year of fiscal restraint, because having a strong, responsible, balanced budget is going to be our main objective this session. The good news is that New Mexico's in good shape because of the work we've done in the last 6 years to create jobs, and secondly, to keep a high level of cash reserves. The New Mexico economy is strong. As you know, unemployment is significantly lower than national. National unemployment is at around 6%. We have hit 4. We're in and out of 4. The global economic impact, the global recession is having an impact everywhere, including here in New Mexico. So the main message is, while we have challenging economic times, New Mexico is going to be in good shape to deal with those tough times. Collectively, all states in the Union have a deficit of about $90 billion for 2009 through 2010. All we do is read about other states increasing taxes, laying off employees, cutting salaries, reducing Medicare and Medicaid services. Because we have been fiscally responsible by expanding our economy and saving money during good times, we're well positioned, I believe, to deal with a worldwide financial crisis. The President-elect Obama is also pushing for a nearly $800 billion federal stimulus package, and we have made a legitimate claim for our share of that federal stimulus money. This is money that will help to modernize highways, bridges, broadband, Medicaid, renewable energy, and to create jobs now. Now, because of the budgeting situation in the Congress, we won't know what the final figures will be for New Mexico and for states until probably after our legislative session. But we are taking these actions without depending necessarily on the stimulus package. Now, I do believe there will be a good stimulus package, but the steps we're taking are independent of that. We're going to continue to work with the President-elect on his team on this, but we're ready to make the tough choices to prevent a budget shortfall here in New Mexico. Here's the essence of the budget plan. My plan does not increase taxes. It leaves essential services for New Mexicans intact and keeps responsible and substantial cash reserves to protect us against further shortfalls. If there's one element that has been most responsible for our state being in good financial shape, is that we've kept reserves almost as high, on the average actually, of 13%. Our goal has been 10%, but in some cases we've gone to 13%. We have also are not going to have irresponsible budget cuts across the board. We are looking at targeted cuts in a smart and strategic way. When I came into office, reserves were at about 6% of spending. My policies have been to budget conservatively and insist on higher savings. Again, we've averaged about 13%, increasing our rainy day fund by more than $400 million and greatly improving New Mexico's long-term financial security. As you know, our bonding ratings are extremely strong, almost getting perfect bonding ratings. At the same time, we work to grow the economy by bringing in new businesses and high-paying jobs, and as a result, personal income in New Mexico has increased by $16.6 billion since 2002, since I came into office. State revenues rose by $2.1 billion since I took office, even though I passed tax cuts that are $1 billion. In other words, $2.1 billion since we took office, state revenues have risen, even though we had $1 billion in tax cuts. Our economic incentives have resulted in huge increases to the state budget, which allow us to make strong investments in New Mexico's education, transportation, and healthcare systems. Even though we've budgeted responsibly and seen great economic improvements, the global recession has hit us hard. We saw the price of oil go from $143 per barrel to less than $40 per barrel. In August, we predicted about $380 million in new money for next year, but the continuing effects of the global recession decreased our spending budget by about $700 million within a few months. Now we have to make responsible fiscal decisions to prevent a budget shortfall. And what I'm outlining today is the governor's budget. We're facing a shortfall of about $384 million this year and $293 million next year. Cutting this much out of the budget is going to be hard work, and we will all share in the pain, but my plan will maintain core services and help stimulate the economy. So how are we going to do this? Number one, the executive agencies have performed a comprehensive review of all programs, and we're going to try to determine how to reduce spending without hurting key services. As a result of the hard work of the agencies, we are ready to make strategic cuts, 2 to 5% depending on the agency, rather than imposing a flat reduction, which I think would hurt public safety programs, take police officers off the street. So we've gone case by case agency, 2 to 5%. That's number one. Number two, reduce operating budgets. My plan proposes to reduce operating budgets across state government for a total savings of $108 million in FY09 and $290 million in FY10. This would include cuts to the legislature, judiciary, elected officials, public schools, and higher education institutions. Education. Because education makes up 2/3 of our state budget, we simply can't balance the budget without reducing funds to public schools and higher education. Now, what we did is we went to the superintendents and said to them, give us your input. Schools, give us your input on where we can cut. And based on their priorities, we developed a plan for reducing a modest amount of funds for material costs and special interest projects, while allowing educators to continue with their core mission in the classroom. Number three, tax collections. Improvements to the tax collection process is going to bring in an additional $113 million over the next 2 years without raising taxes. Capital outlay, and this is going to be sensitive. In order to balance the budget and stimulate the economy, we also need to deauthorize stalled capital outlay and put that money to immediate use. I know this won't be an easy task, but we all have to share the responsibility to act in the best interest of the state. Local governments and executive agencies have worked together to identify projects that were not making progress. After an extensive review and public input, my administration has identified $263 million in stalled capital funds that will be used to help close the budget gap. This amount is less than 1% of all ongoing capital projects. And these are projects that I proposed from the executive branch and the legislative branch and capital in some of our agencies. We all need to sacrifice, myself included. We will offer up a total of one of my signature capital initiatives, the Water Innovation Project, a total of $5 million. There are others across the board like this that we're going to be offering. Although this initiative has been a success, saving the state millions of gallons of water each year, we all have to make concessions, and this is a project that I believe we can afford to cut. So by taking steps to reduce unnecessary spending and reverting stalled capital dollars, we're going to free up enough money to implement a few economic development initiatives that will create new jobs throughout the state. Now, this is going to be a tough session. I look forward to working with the legislature on this. I had a meeting with the Senate caucus yesterday, Democratic caucus, where I outlined some of these initiatives. Our goal is to have resolve the current year budget shortfall immediately, then start on the 2010 budget. I think we've developed a responsible way to solve these challenges. We're ready to go work implementing the plan.